Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Standing in the Gap, where we are challenged to stand in and close the gap between those who have what they need to fulfill their potential and those who do not. We are so glad you are here. My name is Tiffany. I'm the South Lake Union Operations Manager and your co-MC today. And we are coming to you from the newly reopened Recovery Café Soto. I'm proud to introduce Leonard, who is our Soto Operations Manager.
Thank you, Tiffany. In prior years, our Executive Director, David, has been the MC of this event. But last year, he said this was going to be our last virtual event. So right now, he's currently eating 700 muffins at the Seattle Center, wondering where everyone is. To start off our program, I'd like to introduce you to the Puget Sound Company, longtime friends of Recovery Cafe. And as you will see, they are very gifted musicians.
This is for the busted heart. This is for the question marks. This is for the outcast soul, lost control, no one knows. Sing it for the can't go back. Sing it for the broken past. Sing it for the just found out life is now upside down. If you're looking for hope tonight, raise your hand. If you feel alone and don't understand, and if you're fighting in the fight of your life, then stand. And we're gonna make it through this hand in hand. And if we fall, we will fall together.
This is for the second chance. This is for the new romance. Sing it for the loved and they overcame. It's not too late. If you're looking for hope tonight, raise your hand. And if you're feeling alone and don't understand, and if you're fighting in the fight of your life, then stand. We're gonna make it through this hand in hand. And if we fall, we will fall together. And when we rise, we will rise together. If you're looking for hope tonight, if you're feeling alone tonight, if you're in the fight of your life, we're gonna make it happen, yeah. I will be by your side, 'cause love is in the air tonight. Come up and see the light, whenever, ever, just as long as we're together, say, if we fall, we will fall together. We will fall together. And when we rise, we will rise together.
Together we are dangerous.
Together with our differences, together we are bolder, braver, stronger.
Thank you, wonderful Puget Sound Company. While all the fabulous people in this Zoom make me happy, I know that there are some people who are no longer with us. Today, we would like to take a moment of silence to honor those who we have lost. That includes Recovery Cafe members Leroy, Colin, Teresa, Evie, and Chris. In the silence, we also remember the 538 people who died last year in King County of an overdose. Please join me in a moment of silence for everyone who we dearly miss today. Thank you for helping us create a sacred space.
Hello, everyone. I am grateful for the Cafe's presence in my life. I first got to know the Cafe as a member, then as an on-call staff, then as a full-time Cafe manager, resource specialist, and today I am South Lake Union operations manager. Even in these strange and hard times, I'm inspired by how people are coming together in our community to find innovative ways to support each other. In that light, it is a privilege to introduce the visionary leader of Recovery Cafe, the woman whose dream has become a reality through the Cafe, and a woman I have grown to love, Killian No.
This past summer, my husband Bernie and I sorted through a lifetime of accumulated stuff, like high school yearbooks, VHS movies, and our children's elementary school art projects. Can you believe we had held on to their art projects for over 20 years? Must have been their Picasso-like genius that made it so hard to let go. We gave away to Goodwill 22 boxes of books and 25 boxes containing clothes we may never fit in again and household items we no longer need. Our adult daughters came over to help empty their childhood rooms. That night, after they left, I woke up at 2 a.m. terrified that they had thrown out the baseballs given to them when they were small. It hit me at 2 a.m. that these baseballs may or may not have been signed by Ken Griffey Jr. and J-Lo's ex, A-Rod. It hit me that these baseballs that my daughters had not valued might be valued highly by someone. So the next morning, I went dumpster diving in search of those baseballs. I managed to get in and out of the dumpster without injury, and I'm happy to announce my search was successful. Gordon Greaves, because you are the biggest Mariners fan I know, these baseballs are for you and your son, Ignacio. As most of you know, Recovery Cafe walks alongside individuals recovering from trauma, addiction, and other mental health challenges as each seeks healing from past trauma that weighs us down and robs us of current joy. As each lets go of what no longer serves us. Gabor Mate, acclaimed trauma expert, asserts that underneath every addiction, there is trauma. He also says, for trauma to happen, we do not need war or genocide or divorce or abuse, although all of those things are traumatizing. For trauma to occur, it is enough not to have been loved the way we needed to be loved. Not being loved the way we need to be loved can produce an overwhelming fear of abandonment. And that, too, is trauma. In short, the experience of trauma is more prevalent than most realize. In addition to the painfully obvious need for affordable housing, there are at least 4 responses desperately needed to help heal trauma and the continuing results of trauma, like addiction, depression, and anxiety. I think of these 4 responses as 4 legs of a table. The first leg is a healthcare system that views physical and mental health as 2 sides of the same coin. The second leg is prevention. The third leg is treatment on demand. And the fourth leg is ongoing, authentic community. This morning, I would like to focus on that fourth leg, authentic community. First, authentic community is the place where we reclaim our true identity. It is the place where we shift from taking our identity from our trauma or the results of our trauma, and we begin taking our identity from our deepest, truest self. I'll say more about this identity shift in our video. For now, I'll just say this identity shift requires some daily practice of connecting with our truest self, the place of vast, unconditional love at the core of our being. That practice takes root and bears fruit, not in isolation, but in authentic communities like the 27 recovery cafes. That practice might be prayer, meditation, time in nature, movement, creative expression, or simply being fully present to the person right in front of us. Which brings me to the second dimension of authentic community, which makes the healing of trauma possible. Being both deeply known and loved. Being deeply known without being loved is terrifying. And being loved without being deeply known has no power to heal or transform. As most of you know, in our communities, the structure that holds together being both known and loved is called a recovery circle. An 80-year-old member of my recovery circle lives with significant physical challenges, but takes 4 buses to get to her recovery circle each week. Don't we all need a place where we are embraced just as we are and held to who we say we want to become? Surprisingly few people have such a place. Psychologist Carl Rogers put it this way: almost always when people realize they have been deeply heard, their eyes moisten. By that one simple fact, they have been released from their loneliness. They have become a human being again. Which brings me to the third dimension of authentic community that is essential to the healing of trauma. In authentic community, everyone is a contributor. All of us long to contribute. We need authentic community to help us discover the gift that is ours to give. For it is in giving our lives that we find life. When we contribute the gift that is ours to give, it connects us to needs beyond ourselves and a purpose greater than ourselves. We begin to see that those we once ignored or even despised are members of our human family. Connecting with others who are suffering also connects us with the abandoned parts of ourselves. As we reach out to give to others, the healing we need is given to us. Often the greatest gift we give to others is the gift of our own struggle. One of the co-founders of Recovery Café Frogtown, which is near St. Paul, Minnesota, recently shared her experience. Her father had died of COVID-19, and she was on the verge of relapse. So she started looking up recovery support on the internet when she came across the Recovery Café Network website. As she read about the model, she began to weep. She knew this model was not only what she needed, but what she wanted to give her life to creating in Frogtown. I find myself wondering all the time, what if we as a nation truly understood that addiction is a symptom of trauma and isolation? What if, instead of abandoning or incarcerating individuals suffering from addiction and other mental health challenges, we create authentic communities in every town and city across the U.S. and beyond? Communities where all of us, members, staff, volunteers, supporters, claim our truest identity, experience being deeply known and loved, and discover the gift that is ours to give. That is Recovery Café's vision. Thank you for helping make that vision a reality.
First of all, I am so very humbled to have been asked to share part of my story. Thank you, Killian and David. I grew up in an environment where it was not safe to trust adults. I was extraordinarily rejected and physically, verbally, and mentally abused by my caretaker. That led me to choosing to take my life into my own hands and live on the streets at 12 years old. I grew up in the sex industry where I learned to live in the cycle of using drugs to forget the hundreds of men and the trauma of my first abuser. Days bled into nights, and with the armor of using drugs, I had no problem spending the next 20 years homeless and addicted. It didn't matter how many times I was on the receiving end of a gun, blade, or a broken bottle. Drugs took it all away. When I got to Seattle, and only by grace, I found the Recovery Café. I had lived cumulatively 30 years on the streets and was currently staying at a women's homeless shelter a quarter-mile away from the cafe. I had been introduced to 12-step meetings earlier in my life and somehow had learned that this place, Recovery Café, not only had some meetings, but it was also a safe place to hang out during the time when 12-step meetings weren't occurring. The love and support that I had received at Recovery Café, from the free nutritious food and coffee to the boundaries set, such as having to be clean for 24 hours before I could hang out for the day, or learning new interpersonal skills that were being modeled by the Recovery Café staff, was very attractive to me. See, I have always had either transactional relationships, or if I didn't act the way the other person or people wanted, then that would be the end of that relationship. But it wasn't like that at Recovery Café. They met me where I was. Through their love and supportive modalities, they showed me how relationships can be built on respect and kindness. My life looks completely different from the toothless, drug-addicted, homeless, 89-pound woman that had walked into the Recovery Cafe in 2007. I work 2 jobs and have my own apartment north of Seattle. I work for an agency which serves the most vulnerable and marginalized people in my community, and I love every minute of it. It is my way of letting people who I've shared a shelter bathroom with or a sandwich with that there is a way out, that there is hope, that no matter how hopeless it may seem, there are places like the Recovery Cafe where people who have been where they are will hold the hope for them until they are ready, just like the Recovery Cafe did for me. And that's why I will always love the cafe and the people who serve in it and who have helped me in my recovery journey. The support of Recovery Cafe and others who have loved me are the reasons I celebrated 14 years drug and alcohol free on September 1st. Not only is Recovery Cafe changing lives like mine here in Seattle, as Killian said, it's become a national movement. It is my pleasure to introduce Jean at Recovery Cafe Indy, followed by a video that shares Recovery Cafe's COVID response. Thank you for listening.
The Recovery Cafe, to me, they saved my life. You know, they was here when I needed. I was at probably the downest part, of my life. And just like I said, just through listening, and it was on another member named Brittany one day about a month ago. She told me when I first got here, I seemed shy because I wasn't talking. But I wasn't talking because I was listening. I wanted to know what was going on around me. I wanted to know where my niche was going to be at in the Recovery Cafe, or to not really where it was. I wanted to make my niche. I wanted to grab everything I can grab. I still do that to this day. Any class that comes up, like Caroline back there tells me about the class, bam, I'm there. So my purpose is just like, probably life-giving, driven, because the fact that, like I said, in my heart, I feel like Recovery Cafe saved me, okay? And that's just another one of them ventures that I can, even through grief, I can talk with people more about grief because of what I learned here and what I went through this last 5.5 months done changed me. I mean, when I first came in this door, months ago, to now, I look at things so totally different. I think about things or actions and, things that I do way differently than I did even just 5 months ago. So that's personal. I guess that's personal growth. And I'm 62 years old, so it's like I'm still growing. I'm still want to know. I still want to gain all the knowledge I can gain. And I'm going to, because I don't believe in I can't. That's something that I had a problem with my mom because she gave up. She had early dementia, and it was a painful thing I went through years ago on that. But she always used to say she can't do this. Now, when I went through my first amputation, I had to tell mentally in my mind, put that can't out of there. I took can't out of the dictionary because I know that I can do anything I try to do.
The Recovery Cafe is a refuge. It's a place where individuals come to know that they belong. It's a place where they can become all that they dream of becoming. It's probably most importantly a place where we all begin to know the wonder of our worth. I think a lot of people think of recovery as just a process you go through when you've suffered from substance use disorder. And what we know at Recovery Cafe is that we are all in need of recovery. Some of us are recovering from many things. And that recovery is actually a journey of reclaiming our deepest, truest identities as individuals created to be instruments of love. So we're all in recovery from anything that blocks us from being instruments of love. So when COVID hit, we had to find new ways to meet the needs of our members. The first thing we did was purchase phones for every member who didn't have a phone so that we could connect with them through these life-giving phone calls and invite them into virtual recovery circles. And once a month, we have what we call a resource connection day where we invite community partners to come in and set up a table under a tent and connect our members or anyone with whatever service they need. So we've had dental vans, medical vans, COVID testing, and we provided to-go meals, 2 meals a day, 7 days a week, which comes to over 50,000 meals, and we are not stopping. And of course, we've provided vaccines as well. So we had to discover a whole new way of meeting people where they are.
You're gonna hang out with us until 1:15.
Okay.
Just to make sure you don't have any side effects, which are super uncommon. And then you're free to fly. You have 15 minutes.
Okay. Okay. Well, I was scared at first. I was scared to get it at first, but it wasn't so bad. But I did it, and then it came out to be right. So I felt better the first time and the second time.
Well, with COVID, people are turned in on themselves and they need any kind of support they can to discover themselves psychologically, and Recovery Café can help with that too. And it was kind of isolating. I became a little more isolated than usual. Recovery Café has helped me come out of the isolation, and I really am appreciative of Recovery Café is opening back up.
Ever since day one of the pandemic, they have been nothing but giving. Food. For a while, we couldn't go in and sit down and enjoy ourselves and stuff, but they still provided us with free meals. There's other organizations that do it too, but this is the one that's open every day, Monday through Sunday, that give out free food. And so with this pandemic, a lot of things have changed. As far as people's attitudes, how people are being treated on a daily basis. So it's good to have a resource out there that helps us through this pandemic. It's family. I'm all about family, and they've helped me through these years. So I want to give back and be able to give them the same comfort they gave me.
Since COVID, there has been an increase in substance use, in depression and anxiety, in loneliness. So more than ever, individuals need a place where they can walk in and begin to feel their dignity restored. As we've begun to reopen and welcome people back into community, we are most excited just about reconnecting with everyone, because what we know is that connection really is the heart of recovery from whatever we're recovering from. And so we're excited about connecting with all of our members at the 2 Seattle Recovery Cafes, and we're excited about all the recovery cafes across the US and Canada welcoming back fully their members and reestablishing those life-giving connections. That's what we're really excited about.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jim Vollendroff, and I'd like to offer my own thanks and gratitude for you joining us today. What an honor it is to be here and to be a part of this special event. I've been supporting Recovery Café since its inception, and the best part is Recovery Café has been supporting me right back. That's how it works. Our community and individual members of Recovery Cafe need all that it has to offer now more than ever. I simply love this place and all those drawn to work here and each of its members. I'm convinced that the work they do here is the secret sauce, if you will, for many in our community seeking a meaningful life of recovery. A life in which those of us living with mental illness and addiction are not simply getting by or just surviving, but are thriving as active members of recovery in our community. I'm deeply grateful for the opportunity to share with you why I'm passionate about the healing work of Recovery Cafe and share how you can support this work. I'm currently the Behavioral Health Senior Advisor for Policy and Advocacy for the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences at the University of Washington. I know that's a mouthful. I'm also the former director of the King County Behavioral Health and Recovery Division. But I have to say that of all the titles and roles that I've held, I most identify as an individual in long-term recovery, and that's the voice that I come speaking with today. When I was 17 years old, I made the first attempt to end my life. As you can imagine, it was an incredibly difficult time for me and my entire family. My parents had recently divorced. I'd moved from California to Washington State, and I was struggling with depression and anxiety, abusing substances to help me cope as I tried to hide the fact that ultimately I was coming to realize that I was a gay kid growing up in Grays Harbor County. Ultimately, I'd end up making multiple attempts to end my life. An involuntary psychiatric hospitalization followed. Eventually, I was able to heal from the trauma of growing up in an abusive household, come to celebrate the fact that I'm a gay man, and began what's become a lifelong recovery process. It's only been in the last 8 years that I've begun to talk about and share my recovery story. I started hearing courageous people share their stories, including members of the Café at events like this, and was inspired to speak out. For nearly 30 years, I kept my history a secret, locked inside, afraid of what people would think of me. It's beyond liberating to stand before you today and share that I eventually became the director of the very organization that involuntarily committed me so many years ago. That I eventually went to work for Harborview Medical Center, where I helped launch the Behavioral Health Institute and where I was once a patient on their inpatient unit. I run marathons today, including running the Seattle Marathon with Soul Train, the running and walking group of the Recovery Cafe. I teach in the Masters in Social Work program at the University of Washington, where a member of the Café is obtaining his advanced degree right now. What an amazing life journey it is, and I am so grateful. You know, I was once so broken that I overheard my mom tearfully whisper to one of my siblings, "I think we're going to lose him." And I stand before you today as a living example of what your gift to Recovery Cafe can do. It can help provide the resources to help those of us living with behavioral health conditions realize our full potential. I continue to be involved in and support the Café today, and I invite you to do the same. I look forward to the day when every community has their own Recovery Cafe, and your gift will make this one step closer to reality. Today, I want to invite so many of you to continue your wonderful tradition of investing in the Café, and the rest of you to consider giving today. I'm also thrilled to announce that through the kindness of our community partners, we have a $200,000 matching gift. All gifts of $100 or above and all pledges, pledge extensions, and pledge increases will be matched. Second, I asked you to consider joining me making a multi-year commitment, because a pledge over time allows Recovery Cafe to plan for the future. Each dollar pledged for next year and the years beyond enables the Café to expand its programs and serve more members in a fiscally sound manner. In essence, your planning makes it possible for the Recovery Cafe to plan. Next, I want to talk to you about what a gift at each level could represent for the Café. As Killian shared, we have had to transform the way we bring love, compassion, and a sense of belonging, efficacy, resiliency, and life transitions to our community. We can't do it without you. The first giving level is a gift of compassion, $1,000 a year for 3 years. A gift of $1,000 provides 1,250 nourishing meals. Ever since we had to close the cafe as a gathering space, we have served to-go meals every day, and from March 2020 until now, we've served over 60,000 meals. The second level is a gift of transformation, a gift of $10,000 a year for 3 years. A gift at this level empowers 55 members to address the many dimensions of mental illness and addiction, process trauma, and develop new skills through classes in the School of Recovery. At the third level is a gift of vision, $25,000 a year for 5 years. Support at this level is equivalent of providing a resource specialist for 6 months that can walk alongside our members in navigating the ever-changing service landscape to access housing, employment, and other needs. For those of you able to give at these levels, we are grateful beyond measure. Our next level is a gift of hope. What is your hope for the Recovery Cafe? On this line, please tell us how much you would like to give and for how many years. Finally, our last level is the gift of radical hospitality. This is the opportunity to give monthly at an amount that you find meaningful. This allows the cafe to have a steady income each month to support members on their recovery journey. All of you will determine your own level of giving. There is a place for you to enter the gift most appropriate for you. I ask you to open your hearts to the most vulnerable among us and stretch your gift to what feels right for you. In the chat box is a link to our online giving portal. Please accept our sincere thanks for the gift you are making today. For those of you who have already pledged your support, we thank you for your trust. If you are able to increase or extend your pledge to help the cafe maximize today's match, Recovery Cafe would be delighted. On behalf of everyone of the cafe community, I want to thank you for the gift you have already given, and that's your gift of time. We know how precious this is. So now I'll turn the program back over to Tiffany and Leonard to wrap up.
Again, I want to thank you for being with us today. Now that you have seen a little about the cafe, you can appreciate that this special place would not be possible without the community of individuals who contribute their time, their money, and their expertise. To every one of them, please hear a roaring applause coming from our hearts. We are also honored to have on our call today our sponsors who have covered the entire cost of this event today. Our visionary sponsors, Amazon, Holland Partner Group, Freestone Capital, and Lakeside Industries. Our transformative sponsors, Kaiser Permanente, Coldstream Wealth Management, Columbia Pacific Wealth Management, and the Wyman Youth Trust. Our compassionate level sponsors, Omni Group, Vulcan Incorporated, and the Sisters of Providence. And our Hope level sponsors, of course, we are entirely grateful to our bridge builders who have invited you here today.
So you guys, we hope that next year we are able to celebrate together in person, but we are profoundly grateful to you for being with us today. I believe the cafe's community of caring brings healing into my life and to everyone it touches. Thank you for helping us make what has been broken whole again and bringing hope and love into the world. To conclude our program, we have one more song from the amazing Puget Sound Company. Have a great morning. Love you.
Love you.
Don't you think I hear the whispers? Those subtle lies, those angry pleas. They're just demons, demons, wishing
laying down so many others. Oh, but you'll know my name when you see that in these ashes I'm stronger still. You will learn to feel my pain, yeah, you will.